to the very last episode of Film at Bay, the show that brings you insight into filmmakers in the Bay. Over the past 12 weeks, we have spoken to many experienced as well as emerging filmmakers in and around the Bay. In today's episode, we will show you highlights from these interviews.
The most challenging thing is making either film or television series. There are various aspects that you have to kind of take care of. And if I take two examples, there are two productions, John Ross and African Adventure and Barney Benato. Now these were particularly challenging for these reasons. We were working on water for John Ross. Now we never went to sea to shoot the shipwreck, but we had to recreate a shipwreck. Now the thing about recreating a shipwreck is, we're not Hollywood, so I had to use a farmer's reservoir in where was it, Rustenburg. It was 30 meters across. And what we had to do was to make chutes. And those chutes released a huge amount of water. And we shot this at night. But it took a huge amount of planning because, South African directors, we've become masters of compromise because we simply don't have the money. So there was a lot that had to go into this. And in order to shoot this, what I did was I did a very complex storyboard at the time, which I don't know whether you can see it, but I had to try and work out all the elements of the scene. So I went to a fair bit of detail, and the thing about it is that it's a matter of sharing information with other people, with the rest of the crew. So I planned it very, very carefully, and that was a huge challenge to actually pull that off, and we actually did pull it off fairly successfully. Then the other one was Barney Benato, and we had to recreate the diggings where the Kimberley Hole is now. We had to recreate the early stages of the diggings. So what I did there, and now at that stage there was something between 20 and 50,000 miners on those diggings. I had 90 extras. So this is the diggings that we recreated. This is the early stage of the diggings. So we went to an old quarry and dressed it. I even had cutouts of people on the horizon with shirts on so they could flap in the breeze to try and add the number of people. But what we did was we put a huge amount of smoke and dust into the picture. The funny part is this kind of paradoxical situation when you're making movies. You might have what seems to be a very simple script or in a very simple situation, and you might think, oh, well, that's going to be a breeze. Turns out to be the toughest film you've ever shot. Or it might be a very complex film with lots of digital effects and stunts, and it might be the easiest thing you've ever done.
What advice would you give to budding filmmakers who would like to break into the filming industry?
First of all, you must have a passion for movies, and you have to be tenacious. You've got to be absolutely determined to succeed. But above all, you need this. This represents ideas. You have to have brilliant ideas. The whole thing is to come up with a very unique, original, arresting idea. Write a script. Shoot many, many movies, short films, show them to an audience, get a feedback. Some of the most famous filmmakers in the world, like Quentin Tarantino, he worked in a video store for 5 years, and he was so knowledgeable about film, hugely knowledgeable. Other guys like Robert Rodriguez, who made El Mariachi, he took part in some medical experiments, so he raised part of his $7,000 budget from doing medical experiments, and that's how he made his first movie, El Mariachi, which went on to do exceptionally well. And he then made Spy Kids, which made $100 million. The thing is to have a passion for it. So the script is the single most important thing. Really, really good script. A story that's worth telling. A spark of reason to be made. You've got a really good script. Good characters, original characters. Watch people around you. Read the newspapers. Build up a whole portfolio of ideas that you can use. Show your movies to people. look at paintings, look at films, watch DVDs. You just have to work at it constantly, and it takes a lot of study, and you've just got to be single-minded about it. It's as simple as that. But you learn from experience. You just must make lots of movies.
Dieter, can you please explain to us what the work that you're doing with 3D animations?
Okay, the filmmaking process for computer-generated movies is quite a long and involved process. So what we're looking at doing is making the early steps that involve pre-visualization and animation a lot easier. So one of the ways that we are trying to make this easier is by making use of the Microsoft Connect, so that we can have a cheap version of motion capturing, so we can directly capture animation from that. The other types of projects that we're looking at is by taking storyboarding pictures and converting those directly into 3D models and camera positions.
Thank you, Dieter. Now we speak to Timothy Potgieter, one of the students working on this groundbreaking project. Welcome, Timothy.
Thanks.
So, what exactly do I have to do?
Okay, well, my project is called 3D puppeteering for Blender using the Kinect. Okay, so now that is a mouthful, but to break it down, I'm basically focusing on the field of 3D animation. Okay, so the point of my project was to make it a bit more easier, a bit more intuitive to be able to animate 3D models. So what my project is about is using more natural methods, such as your body movements, to animate, instead of using the conventional ways of doing things where someone sits behind a desk and clicks for hours trying to figure it out. So the clever part is that the Microsoft Kinect comes in, and it can see your whole body, and it can track your movements, and it can turn those movements into virtual movements of the 3D model. If you move your right arm, then his right arm goes up there. And if you move your left arm, then your left arm goes up. So you can kind of do all sorts of movements, and Jim the Gingerbread Man will track your movements.
It's Jim?
Yeah, I call him Jim.
Welcome back. Sit back and enjoy some more highlights from the past season.
About 4 years back, we selected the film industry specifically, and that's where we're going to focus on to grow that one, because we felt that in the creative sector, that will be the most where we'd like to make an impact, because it brings together quite a number of artists of different genres together. And what we then did is we commissioned a study and said, what is it that we need to be doing to ensure that our city is able, to maximize its potential as a film destination? A number of things were brought to us, that we needed to do. And I think I'm quite happy to say that since then we've been able, to systematically begin to put in place those building blocks that will place Nelson Mandela Bay in the next 5 to 10 years as a film destination going forward. That would, would likely to see more, film adverts shot here, films shot here, by locals and people coming, from outside of that. Some of the things that we've then done is we've agreed that infrastructure will be key on one hand, but I think it also dealt with some of the softer but critical elements of the industry. The policy environment, we've now put in a film policy. We've also, we're concluding a film bylaw, so that anyone that wants to come into the city or in the city wants to do film, he knows, what is the regulatory environment. So all those things are in place. We've done that one. You'd also, be aware that the city, the Bay TV is an initiative of the city, because we felt that when all goes well, our own artists, needs to expose themselves in their own environment. Now, we've got a history in this environment. If you look in the South African landscape, the actors, filmmakers, where do they come from? They come right from the city. But, they've made it in Johannesburg because Joburg has the industry. And what we're doing is to begin to build that. And we felt that local television, station will be critical. So the city has gone ahead and put 4 million rands up front, to assist that, to ensure that there's a platform for our local, talent to expose themselves. And we're happy to see now, Bay TV is now part of a national platform, and therefore we believe that we are getting there.
What advice would you give an emerging producer, someone who wants to start up in the industry and produce?
Well, I would assume that he has spent a lot of time in watching movies, because that's the first prize. I was fortunate enough that in the little town where I grew up in the Free State, we had a 35mm projector, so I was watching movies from the age of, I think, of 10. Every Saturday we'd watch a movie. And then obviously you must have tenacity, because the buck stops at the producer's desk all the time. Everybody looks at the producer, making sure the money's there, the contracts are signed, and everything is in place. So tenacity, and I think a very important part of being a successful producer is that you must have people skills. Because every time you go into a product, into a movie, you work with, by and large, with 20 to 30 different people. And you have to put them together in a team that works towards one objective. And that objective is to make this movie as successful as possible, with at least problems as possible. And at the end of the day, when the movie is finished, everybody says goodbye to each other, hoping to see each other again, and not the other way around.
Well, this is our very last episode of Film at Bay, and everyone from the Media Workshop would like to thank you for all of your support and watching our show. You can still contact us by liking our Facebook page, The Media Workshop, or email us at info@themediaworkshop.co.za. But from me, until next time, goodbye and God bless.